Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pastrami Paranormal, the Pastrami Nation podcast where we talk all things paranormal. I'm Kevin, one of your hosts, and with me, of course, as usual, Mr. Nolan Smith. How are you today?
Hello.
And Rebecca Benson, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I love the scenery. I love the background. It looks like you guys are nice and comfy outside. Nice, cool weather, right?
Yes.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. That's right.
It's getting nicer as the sun goes down.
That's cool. I'm inside with the air on, so we're good. We're good. It's nice and cool in here. So guys, today we're going to be talking about something that I think we're all really excited to talk about. We're going to be talking about some legendary creatures and mythical monsters, everything kind of in that realm. So you're talking, cryptozoology, all that fun stuff, Yeah, exactly. We're going to be discussing, things like Bigfoot, mermaids, you name it. Hopefully we'll talk about some of it and talk about the things that interest us the most, and even how they kind of coincide with pop culture. A lot of the things we love have a lot of these elements in them. So let me ask you guys a question. When you guys think of legendary creatures, mythical monsters, what's the first thing that comes into your mind when you think that?
I think like the big top three: a Yeti, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Good choices. Those would be my choices. But I would say, since she's right, those are really great choices. I would say mythology. So centaurs and minotaurs and sirens, and things like that. The serpent that ended Valhalla, in Norse mythology. That's the kind of thing that goes through my mind. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, those are all great. I think of Bigfoot right away. Like Bigfoot's for some reason where my mind goes, and then mermaids and like sirens are like super fascinating to me. The ocean is a whole other thing. It's this whole other ecosystem. So who knows what's out there? But that really fascinates me. What's that?
The megalodon.
Megalodon. Yeah. Things like that. And also, like, if I had to pick like one more, I would think like fairies. Like fairies and nymphs. They all come from that kind of, especially mermaids and fairies. They kind of come from that fairy tale background, and I'm so used to kind of, the Disney-fied versions of those. Of course, I know like the classic, fairy tales that they come from, a lot of the Grimm's fairy tales and a lot of the older stuff that was passed around back in the day. But things like, the Little Mermaid and even the Tinkerbell, we all know who Tinkerbell is,
right.
We've heard of her, we know her. And it's just also, fascinating to me, like where these kind of stories evolve from, because I feel like all cultures kind of have the same, there are different myths and legends in every country, obviously, as we know, but a lot of them share a lot in common, things like the Bigfoot and Yeti, for example. We know they're not the same thing, but they kind of share the same characteristics, and one's mainly in like these snow-covered Alps, type setting, and Bigfoot is just in the middle of the woods, in the Pacific Northwest or wherever. That part's always kind of fascinated me about all these different cultures. They have different legends, but they all kind of are the same, if that makes sense. Just different names.
Absolutely. One, and it's not really a big popular one, but it was one that I've always been drawn to, and it's kind of, I guess you could say, based in reality, because you just don't know, and it would be the Thunderbirds. Native, beliefs and mythology. And I remember reading about them in a mythology book, and just this frightening image of these massive, ugly birds that can cause thunder and lightning when they come down. Like, it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. And of course, there are real life bases to it, but nothing like what they tote in legend.
Right.
But that and phoenixes scare the heck out of me. Like,
ooh, good one.
There should never be a big fire bird. I once wrote a story about this big fire bird chasing a washed out superhero. And what? It was so hard to finish that, because just to see that image in my head as I'm writing it, like, I can't do it. like it was like the ugliest, horriblest thing. Is no, and you can't do anything to it. You hit it, and it's fire. Like
Yeah, that's super terrifying. And the thing about these myths and legends is like you can put whatever kind of face and whatever kind of body you want on this thing. You have a basic, it's a giant bird, but a lot of the times it's up to the person. Like some people might find the Thunderbird to be like this beautiful creature, you know what I mean? Like in their brain, but like
right.
other people, have grown up to see it as something completely different. And that's an interesting call. It's like mermaids, like we think mermaids a lot of the time, and pop culture, they're like these beautiful, siren-esque, they're out there, Ariel from the Little Mermaid, or even in Peter Pan, they're these beautiful sirens, but if you look at the history of mermaids and sightings of mermaids, they're not that. Like they, same idea, they have the fish tails, but they're these hideous monsters who want your soul, especially, the sirens out there calling for the men to go out, and then as soon as they get out there, they drown them and like all these other crazy things. But for some reason we have this idea of them as being these, even in like the original fairy tales, like Grimm's fairy tales, they weren't as, beautiful or anything as we make them out to be. They're these, I guess Ariel would be, because that obviously the fairy tale is much darker than what we notice on screen,
Way different ending, yeah.
Yeah, and it's I know I bring up Little Mermaid a lot, but like it was such a big influence on how I perceive mermaids and how kind of my fascination of that whole world kind of started, to be honest. Like it was this whole underground civilization, and I couldn't 10 years old, I was trying to figure out how the heck that was possible. I thought that was really cool.
Well, and with Little Mermaid, like you can tell there's that basis to even back to the Odyssey, with the sirens, because Ariel has this voice of gold, right?
Yeah.
And so did the sirens in the Odyssey. I mean, they just happened to be hideous, monstrous things, but they kept the same, that voice, that alluring voice. And then, of course, Disney gave a version that, oh, everybody loves Ariel and everybody wants to be happily ever after. We know in the real stories that it's not happily ever after.
No, it never is. It never is. But that's what I find so interesting about how we've evolved the story so much to where we have this other perception of them. What about you, Rebecca? What was kind of your kind of, I guess, introduction into the world? Like, what do you associate most, even from like movies, TV shows, anything like that?
Actually,
what's that?
I've talked about it before, and I think a big part of it was watching X-Files, because they do have like, I still vividly remember some of those episodes that have to deal with even early caveman, like when they find the civilization.
That was cool.
Yeah. And then, the twist at the end, of course, it's X-Files. And then I just remember when it was a very long dialogue between Mulder and Scully while they're waiting for the Loch Ness Monster to come out. You remember that one?
I do, of course.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah, like those like cryptozoology episodes of X-Files were some of my, well, I like the ghost stuff too, like the more paranormal type stuff, but like the stuff with like, Bigfoot or like Loch Ness Monster, all that stuff, I've always was drawn to those episodes.
And you talk about Disney, and then like Bigfoot makes an appearance in a Goofy movie, and I mean,
exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
And then up here, we obviously are very themed towards Yeti and snow.
Right.
So,
I guarantee you, there's a Bigfoot out here. Yeah, absolutely. You cannot tell me this forest that surrounds us does not have one. I mean, we've seen plenty of deer run out. There's only a matter of time before this massive, whatever you want to call him, Bigfoot or skunk ape or whatever, he's going to come across, and we're going to take off like the Dickens, because we're not dying that way. It would be really cool. I mean, I want to have a cool way to go across the pearly gates and be like, Bigfoot.
Well,
like, you mean Fred? Oh.
But what if we don't know he's out there because maybe he's just this little peaceful being that just wants to be left alone, doesn't want to hurt anybody. And he finally comes out, and he's totally chill. Like,
that's a big possibility. Just like, a snake isn't really aggressive by nature. It's when you come into their territory. What if a Bigfoot's the same way, I mean,
exactly.
Don't be a full mountain climber like, oh, I'm going to go over here by myself. And then all of a sudden, Fred or whoever it is going to be like, hey, dinner just dangling right there.
Yeah, like it could go either way, and we don't know. It's kind of like the whole thing with aliens too, like they could be peaceful, they could be war hungry, just want to take us over.
I'm going with the latter on that one.
You're going with the latter? I think it might be I don't want to say it'd be funner, but I'm kind of the same way as you are with Bigfoot. Like if you were to be torn apart by Bigfoot and get to the pearly gates and be like, hey, I was torn apart by Bigfoot, I'm cool. Yep. Like, yeah, I want that. Come on. Yeah, man. Like aliens would be like a super cool kind of way to go out. Like you finally discovered the truth. Aliens are real. They're here, and they murdered us. Like,
yeah, but when you hear the stories of that, like I would much rather go out with like some massive hairy being, beating me to death or whatnot, versus we know what aliens do in their spaceships. I don't want to be like chopped up into spam cans. Like, I still want to be me.
Yeah, no, that would be nice. Yeah. Or what if it's like Mars Attacks?
Oh,
just running through the streets, just like shooting you with their little ray gun, and you just.
That's how it's going to happen. Like Mars Attacks and the video game Destroy All Humans, same thing.
Oh yeah.
This little big-headed guy is just going to come up to you and just pop.
Gosh, that would be so much. That would be interesting.
Like deep sea.
Oh, deep sea.
Like the depths that we don't know about, because you talked about the underwater civilization from mermaids. Right. What about like the saltiest of waters, and there's some preserved life form, like the megalodon.
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and megalodon's real. Like it has to be, megalodon, something that brought the story and idea for the creature of the Black Lagoon.
Just like the Jason Statham vehicle, the Meg.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
I love that classic piece of cinema.
I know it
was actually pretty good. Not gonna lie, I watched it. I enjoyed it.
It was good, because it could have been really bad, like Sharknadoes.
Oh, it could have been. But yeah, like the ocean and the sea is one of those things that forever will fascinate me, but also forever terrify me. Yep. Because it's like you don't know what's down there. Like, I want to go down and check it out one day. What's that?
What if there's a water Bigfoot?
Maybe
you never see him. He's walking on the bottom of the ocean.
That's see, like what is going on? Like that's just like that just like that right there.
Waterfoot.
It's like that right there is like just trips me out like completely. Like because I have
freaking out.
Like I'm freaking out, man. Like you're down there just chilling in the ocean and you just see this big like ape face like looking at you through the glass, like got some like gills on his neck.
And it's Dave. Yeah, you're in Dave's territory. Yeah. And he's gonna beat you to death, but underwater.
Freaking Dave. Dave's tough, man.
He's
Nobody
waiting for
wants
you.
To mess with Dave.
He'll see you at the beach.
Another monster in cinema. What about it's Mirror Lake in real life, but Lake Placid?
Lake Placid.
The alligator.
I like that movie a lot too.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah, Lake Placid is amazing. It's like these things where like, so you have the small body of water with these creatures that supposedly live in them, right? So you have things like Loch Ness, because Loch Ness is big, but it's not like massive. You know what I mean? Like it's a big lake.
Right.
It's a loch. So it's like, things like Lake Placid, obviously not based, not a true story per se, but like where would they even hide? That's my question. Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out about Loch Ness. Like, I've been like wrapping my head around like where Loch Ness can be. Like, it's got to be somewhere in the loch, but the thing's not very big unless there's some like secret tunnel I don't know about or something.
Right.
Wormhole.
A wormhole to another dimension, maybe.
Back in 1952, and then they, jumps back to 2021.
We have time traveling cryptids.
Mm-hmm. And then you know what? Dave could be down there too.
Dave. We love Dave.
Like, hey, we walk over here, speaking his fish language, and then bye,
part Basilisk, part dragon. Let's bring it all.
Oh, we could do it. Yeah, you could have water chupacabras.
There you go.
Dude, and like speaking of chupacabra, let's talk about chupacabra for a second. Those things, like, I don't even know what to make of chupacabra because I've heard so many stories, and of course, growing up in a pretty big Hispanic family, like you hear about the chupacabra,
goat sucker,
yeah, like that's creepy, man. Like a little, like, what is it? Like a little, like when I think of chupacabra, I think of like a I don't really know, like a bunny type creature with fangs.
Over at Calico Ghost Town, they have a fossilized or like preserved chupacabra.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's right.
And it's obviously fake, but it's like a deformed coyote.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I come from the school of belief that we had to have all seen the pictures. The big green bean-looking thing with the spikes running down the head.
Oh yeah,
very humanoid-looking. That's what I imagine.
Oh, okay.
But if there was a water one, he'd probably be blue instead of green, and he would be a whale sucker instead of goats. So he could be down there for you too, Kevin.
The lake moss.
His name is Gary.
There you go.
Gary and Dave.
Yep, they say if you give them names, it makes it a little easier, but that's not true.
That's what I'm trying to make it all make sense.
And then we'll go deep diving soon, so you can see them all.
I'm down, man. I live in the Pacific Northwest, right by the water, man. I'm sure there's lots of fun stuff down there that we don't know about.
And he's in Bigfoot country. So
Mm-hmm.
Bigfoot country. I don't know of any. What's that?
Does he exist? Do you think Bigfoot exists?
I do. I think it's too hard. I mean, you hear too many stories and you hear too many things for him not to exist, to be honest, in my opinion. But I don't know what he is, if that makes sense. Like, I know obviously the big hairy monkey creature thing, but like one theory I've heard, which kind of makes some sense, I guess, as to why we haven't found him. And I know it sounds out there and it's crazy, but he's some sort of like interdimensional being that is able to transcend dimensions. So that's why you're able to see him, but you're never able to get a picture because he just kind of poof, he's out of the way, right?
Or what if he's like a werewolf, but instead of a werewolf, he turns into a Bigfoot?
Maybe.
And then all the rest of the time, he's just some strange man.
Or it's just some really strange hairy man living in the woods.
Or a leftover from, the prehistoric era.
There you go.
I think so. Because, I mean, you got all these forests that are super, super, super dense, like, especially up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Sorry, I'm dying over here.
It's okay. Okay. You have all these real super dense forests, and it's just kind of like the ocean. Like, most of the forests are explored, but people don't go there every day. I mean, there's so much forest out there that just is uninhabitable, basically, even to just hike through. So who knows what's out there? Who knows what's living, a peaceful life where no one's going to bother it.
Right, and Bigfoot could be a werewolf, left over from another era too, because we don't know how long these things have existed.
Right,
and cryptozoology as a whole, it could be something that we saw in our history books. I would like to bring up about how the Vikings were the first ones to land on North America, but they turned away because they saw these massive hairy beings lining the coast. Ooh. And they didn't want to chance it, so they turned back, and then, of course, the rest is history. Right. So I don't know how long these things have really existed. But, I mean, that's part of the fun of it, right? Because then we get to
exactly
and think, and, I mean, Bigfoot could have a spacesuit, and, came from Mars. We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Like, obviously we know nothing, and it's kind of like it's just about perception and how we view them. You can either view them as the happy-go-lucky Harry and the Hendersons type of Bigfoot, or it can be the crazy, malicious, just super scary creature. Who knows? Who knows?
Or it could be that Bigfoot from the Peacock channel that Jason did the review on and gave 0 pastramis.
That's right.
I still need to. I might have to check that out one of these days. I know it's bad, but
I think you have to. I think it's on the pastrami application. Like you have to that Bigfoot movie.
And you don't tell anyone. You don't tell anyone that if you give it more than 1, 0, like you're not in.
If it's more than 0, then
no mentions.
We can give you recommendations to another podcast.
Right.
There's a TV show I have to bring up because I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it's all about mythical creatures. And it was back in the 90s, and it was Hercules: The Legendary Journeys.
Oh yeah,
with Kevin Sorbo.
Absolutely,
one of my absolute favorite TV shows. You had the Hydra and the Cyclops, and you had the gods there. You had Cerberus, the Hellhound.
Yeah,
you had all these. Oh, just amazing creatures. And, for its time, they used the puppetry and they were just starting to use the CG. But I absolutely loved it. Yeah, they did Xena, but Xena was kind of stupid because they was just like, oh, I'm going to fight another lady Amazon or a warlord. And that was all you did. I'm like, give me my monsters and gods and, give me the sovereign, But I loved the monsters. I remember as a kid having the Hydra. I've always, been drawn to mythology. In my 6th grade, like that was my thing. I read every book I could get a hold on in mythology. When I left elementary school, they gave me the mythology book to take with me because I read it so
That's awesome.
But that Hercules was, to me, one of the embodiments of mythical creatures. Yeah, there were stupid episodes. There was the one that was like modern day times.
Oh,
don't do but for the most part,
they don't make them like they used to.
They don't. Like that's one of those ones. Like I would go back and watch a few of those episodes just to see it.
Yep.
There's the one with the big chicken. Don't watch that one. That's just a big chicken, literally.
Granted, the graphics and all that, but still.
Right, but I think Kevin Sorbo fits so well. He's just so like deadpan hero. Like you're kind of small to be Hercules kind of guy. I loved that. He wasn't like the Marvel Comics version, just popping out of his shirt or anything. Just simple vest, just kind of bummish looking.
Yeah, but that was a really cool show. I mean, like Sam Raimi was behind it. He had, he brought his kind of style to it, which we, I think that was what made it great.
Yeah.
What's that?
Ted Raimi, who we interviewed.
Ted Raimi was in it too. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a cool interview. That was really fun.
It's still one of my favorites.
Yeah, that one was awesome. But yeah, like things like Hercules, like I was always fascinated, mythology, of course, like all those creatures that you brought up, super interesting. Minotaurs too, Minotaurs are really cool. Those guys are just weird to think about, but it's kind of cool idea, it's just like
you're right. It's weird to think about because you're like, where did you come up with like, I'm going to take the top, the head of a bull and put you on the body of a man, or I'm going to put the torso of a man on a horse.
Exactly.
And then if you jump into Egyptian mythology, even more so, like, we're going to have a god, but he's going to have like a big dog head and a human body.
Right.
And then you had the alligator, right? The alligator that would eat your heart if you weren't pure. Mythology was my thing. And it was so Ra, you had Ra, who was like this bird head.
Right.
But, where did it come from? Were these gods wearing these masks? So when you got the...
like the plague, almost.
Right.
The doctor's mask.
So when pictures were drawn, it was just to show that, right? Yeah. And that's a really good example, because, of course, it was used for a different reason. But when you're doing the hieroglyphics and whatnot, all you would see would be the bird man.
Right.
Doesn't make it any different. I almost wore my Anubis hat for that reason.
Oh, really? Isn't that weird, though? Like, I never really thought about that, but like, what is it about like, meshing of human and animal kind of, traits and parts to create one thing that makes, you know, why is that part of the mythology? You know what I mean? What's kind of like, where did that kind of come from? I mean, you have mermaids, you know, at the top part of a, you know, a human woman, and the bottom parts of, you know, a fish. Like, that's weird, right? Like, I mean, it's just like where did that come from? Where did that idea of meshing the human and the animal together to create these gods or these other creatures?
Right, because how much is symbolism and how much is real life? Because is it because the guy could fly that you decided to give him the features of a bird?
Okay.
But what if he was like, you know, an alien or something, you know?
Right.
I can't explain the crocodile one because it was just a big crocodile.
Yeah, it's just a big crocodile. We like crocodiles, just like Peter Pan, or, you know, Captain Hook's giant crocodile tries to eat his other hand, you know?
Oh, we love crocodiles. Yeah. Happy Gilmore, man.
We do. So like one particular creature that I really, really am interested in, only because in different countries, they're still thought to be very prominent in their country, even though we think of them as folklore, we think of them as fake. But things like so like the fairies. Let's talk about the fairies real quick. So like in different countries, particularly Iceland, they literally have like fairy mounds that you do not touch because their belief in them is so strong. There's one highway there that they built around a fairy mound because they didn't want to disturb the fairies. Right. So it's like this really deep-seated cultural thing that they still, you know, they believe that fairies are bringers of good luck, but they're also kind of the bringers of karma, so to speak. So they kind of do a little bit of both. And that to me just has always been super interesting because, like I said, we think of them as these creatures that, you know, they're fairy tales, you know, they come from, you know, kid stories, you know. But like part of me wants to kind of believe that there's something like that out there. You know what I mean? Like if all these other cultures believe in it and they brought it through their times and their, you know, obviously it's that whole thing where the harder you believe in it, the more it comes true. So the more people believe in something, it's going to come true, or people are going to accept it to be truth. But something like fairies has always kind of interested me just because of that reason, because the traditions and everything have carried so far into modern day that they're still relevant in so many places. You know what I mean? So to me, it's hard to believe that they're just fairy tales, you know, kind of like Bigfoot or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying I believe in fairies, but I'm saying that I believe there's something there. You know what I mean? I don't know what it could be, you know, but you never know. I always thought that was really cool.
No, good point. Because, you know, just because maybe not here in America, you know, just because we don't have such a huge, you know, belief in it doesn't mean other countries and whatnot, you know, they don't have that. Same with, you know, Japan, and, you know, you got their different, you know, creatures and whatnot, the Tengu and whatnot that, you know, haunt the forest, which I love. I think it's a really cool thing.
Dude, the Japanese folklore and legends are just utterly terrifying, to be honest with you. A lot of their myths and stuff are they're really cool, but a lot of it is the stuff they want to be scary is scary. You know what I mean? Like it's like they go all out and they're like, do not go in the woods because of this thing, and I believe them, and I will not go out into the woods because of this thing.
Especially at night, you don't know what's going to be up in those trees
at night
for you.
Mm-hmm.
Japanese ghosts, man. That's a whole other. That's a whole episode.
Are off limits for him, and deep sea.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there could be water Bigfoots, there could be water werewolves.
Gary and Dave.
Yep.
Yeah, you can have all types of water beings just waiting for you, just for you, and nobody can hear you scream underwater.
That is true. That is true. That is true.
He's like, yeah, I'm not going to the beach anymore.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I've had my share of, you know, I watched Jaws when I was like 5. That traumatized me from a young age, from already going to the beach. So I think I'm good. I like the sand though. It feels good on your feet. So yeah, there's all these things. Oh, since we're speaking of, Japanese culture and the East and stuff. Dragons.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Dragons are so. Recently I rewatched Reign of Fire. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but with Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale. And I don't know if have you guys seen it?
A long time ago.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. The premise with like they dig up the dragons and it becomes a war between the dragons and the humans, and it's a pretty cool movie. But and then right after that I watched Dragonheart. The Sean Connery.
I love Dragonheart.
Incredible. Like, I love that movie. I've always loved it since I first saw it. And dragons were so cool, man. Dragons.
Yeah. And dragons can be leftovers from our prehistoric era with dinosaurs, because you had the ones that can cause what you would think would be fire. It's all plausible. If you believe in dinosaurs. Yeah.
What's that?
If you believe in dinosaurs. Well, because there is this belief that dinosaurs are actually just reptile skeletons that have expanded throughout the years. And my personal opinion, the people who say that are idiots, because they're dinosaurs. There's been so much research and everything. No, they're real. Like, stay away from them.
It's just like the people who say the earth is flat. I mean, come on, people. Come on.
It is, right? The earth is flat.
Yeah. I gotta go. Thank you for joining us for the last episode of Pastrami Paranormal.
Come back next time for Pastrami Flat.
Pastrami Flat. I mean, hey, you know what? You never know, but
we do have
enough evidence that the Earth is round.
Wish I had a flat Earth globe, though. It would just be like this flat thing, and you just flip it.
There's got to be one out there. I have to get one of those.
I'll find you one for Christmas. Don't you worry.
I need one.
You do. Where am I going to go today? Flip. Australia.
I can prove all the naysayers wrong. I can be like, look, the Earth is flat. I have a globe. It says it's flat.
I can put a Funko Pop right on here. It's flat.
Look at all my stuff, man. It's sitting flat on stuff. I mean, would it make any sense if the Earth was curved? My stuff would be falling over.
Nobody lives on the curve. Yeah.
Come on, man.
No. Live on the edge.
Live on the edge.
We'll save that one for Pastrami Paranoia.
I love it. That would be amazing. All right. So, So overall, we've talked about what they associate with these, mythical monsters and lore, things like that.
Flat Earthers.
Gary and Dave and all those guys. So I think we kind of narrowed it down. But what is your number one favorite subject out of all these? Like, if you can do a deep dive and learn everything you want to do, this is your homework assignment for the next one, by the way. So to do a deep dive, you have to learn everything there is to know about the subject. 10-page paper on it. Which one would you choose to do?
I've already written a 10-page paper on one of them. Can I just pick that?
You can, especially if it was one that you really liked. Was that
Bigfoot? Okay. And I will tell you why I wrote a 10-page paper. Without naming names, but I went to a charter school, and the teacher assistant was going to Cal State San Bernardino, and her project was based on Bigfoot, and she was like, I don't know anything about it, and I was like, I do. So I wrote this 10-page paper, and she gave me credit for school, and she got credit for her college.
Nice.
So I've known about Bigfoot and everything since I was a kid. So if there's anything that I know in that world, it's Bigfoot.
That's cool, man. I like that answer. What about you, Rebecca?
Yeah, what about you?
10-page paper.
Okay, but we didn't talk about it, but the Wendigo.
There you go.
The Wendigo.
The Wendigo.
The Wendigo is a very fascinating one.
Yes.
Which, we didn't really get into too much, but
nope.
I imagine we will, though. Soon.
Yeah.
On a future episode.
I don't know what I can tell you, but just the more it pops up in pop culture, and even Stephen King's, Pet Sematary, plays a huge role.
And we we might have a Wendigo on an episode one day. You just never know.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. I look forward to that, and I cannot wait.
He's like, it's a good thing we're in different states. I don't want to see a Wendigo in real life. No, the Wendigo has always been super fascinating to me too. The different ties, Native American or whatever it may be, and it just, even crossing over to pop culture, that's who Wolverine first fought in his first appearance. Mm-hmm. It was Wolverine fighting a Wendigo, and then Hulk was like, "Who the heck are you guys?" And then he started fighting, but it was Wendigo. So, yeah,
I love it. Yeah, Wendigo, super fascinating.
What about you? And you can't say your favorite mythical creature is yourself.
I'll try not to. I was just thinking about that. I was looking at myself in the camera there. I was like, kind of looks like a Bigfoot. Kind of looks like a Bigfoot. Kind of looks like a Yeti going on right there. But man, that's a tough one. So we're just talking about mythical creatures here, cryptozoology, zoological creatures. I'm gonna have to go with mermaids. Like I said, the mermaids, the merfolk, the whole culture there. Or fairies too. Oh man,
I knew fairies. See, my money was going to be on fairies.
It's either
you are, and just the idea of it, and
yeah, it is. I'd say fairies. I'd say fairies because I feel like fairies are still so much lore and so much to learn about their place in the world, basically, in different mythologies and stuff, and they kind of pop up in so many different countries. There's so many different stories, So yeah, I think fairies, definitely.
Fairy folk, yeah.
Fairy folk, yeah. Super interesting stuff.
Not the people who ride ferries.
No, only fairy folk. Fairy.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Not the ferrymen.
Right,
That's totally
exactly.
Story. That ties into mythology too.
Yes, it does.
Love it. Yeah, but yeah, man. I think I think we covered a lot of stuff this time around.
We really did, and I want to invite anybody who's watching it. Drop a comment and let us know who your favorite, mythical creature is. Whether it's mythology, cryptozoology, whether it's one we mentioned or one we didn't even know about. Let us know. Please comment because we are interested.
Definitely.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Anything else you'd like to add, Kevin?
No, I think we covered everything. This was a lot of fun. I love doing these. It was a blast.
All right. Well, then let me go ahead and remind everybody to visit PastramiNation.com. We have news, reviews, and more over there. You can visit us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. And of course, if you prefer to listen to your podcast, we're all over that. SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. So you can find your fix for Pastrami Nation just about anywhere you look.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere. Bottom of the ocean.
Anywhere, bottom of the ocean. Anywhere. Dave and Gary are listening to us right now.
They are. And if you're watching this or listening to this, just really quick, thank you. Thank you for, tuning in. Thank you, because this was a new thing for us. And we're so excited to be able to share the paranormal world with everybody. And we do have really, really cool plans coming up for the rest of the year. So keep tuning in, and we're going to keep surprising you. And Kevin's going to go deep diving one day.
I am. We're gonna have Dave and Gary on. I'm telling you.
Kevin, and they're just gonna be sitting there looking at all Davy Jones' locker, all like, oh.
They're probably gonna be trying to eat me the whole time, but you know what?
Oh, you'll already be eaten. Yes,
it's cool. I might be eaten live on Pastrami Paranormal, so we'll see, folks. Keep on watching and listening.
Awesome. All right, thank you, everybody. Take care,
you guys. Bye.